Hey guys, and I am back. So I believe I found Focus 21, the area what Robert Monroe talks about, where you have souls that are taking a break. Essentially, they are chilling between lives. I ended up going there like at least two or three different times in three different OBEs within the same night. So, this is my experience. So, I put on my little beats and whatnot and hypnagogic state, so on and so forth, and I found myself in a dream. So, the way that I decided to, not, again, I think of myself trying to making sure that I come out of my body. So, in my mind, I'm still thinking, sleep paralysis. I need to come out of my body, come out of my body. And when I realized I was in a lucid dream, I see what looked like a cloud, but it was a picture, like an image within the clouds, right? I focused in on that picture and then everything else went black. Okay. And then I just focused in on that one image and I went up into the image. So I fly up. It looks like I'm kind of like floating, but I'm in a circle. I don't know how to describe it. It's like I'm in the air, just floating. So finally, I get myself right side up. It was weird. I'd never experienced that before, but I get myself right side up, and I look around, and it's a really nice place. I'm gonna. It was. I was in a bedroom, looked very similar to my bedroom, except there was a mirror pretty close to where those trees are over there. That was a mirror, and I decided, oh, a mirror. Go through the mirror. I went through the mirror, and I ended up in another area. It was another soul was in there. He was kind of heavy set, bright skinned guy that did not realize what was going on. He looked a bit flustered. It was almost as if, because it seemed like he was alone and he didn't understand why he was just alone the whole time, and he couldn't quite figure things out. I didn't say anything. I didn't tell him he was dead. I left it alone. So y'all will be proud of me, but it's so. Anyways, so he talks, and I try to emit some sort of a soothing light for him, and that seemed to help a little bit. But I ended up leaving out of there through another mirror that I found in his room. So I leave out. I wound up in what looked like an office area. This particular area had other souls that were just kind of, some of them sitting like waiting for a, I don't know, like they had an appointment with somebody, right? So they had all of these people that are sitting there waiting for somebody to call their damn name and they can get up and talk or whatever. They called me over. Now I flew in, and I'm looking at everybody else just kind of like just sitting and walking around. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, nobody's really paying me much attention, even though I'm flying. Like, y'all don't see me. I'm flying. So, anyways, but apparently those particular souls were in a state of either they were asleep or on autopilot, kind of. They were just kind of mundane, doing their thing, and the only way to really for them to really see what's going on, or to understand, for them to understand what's really going on, is you have to do certain things. You have to kind of talk to them and get them to talk, get them to answer a question of some sort. As a matter of fact, I had an out of body experience where there was a couple of ladies that were in a damn donut shop, right? And I asked them for their name, and they didn't even know their name. And I know it was like they just, she looked at me like, you know, I don't know. So you know what I'm saying? It was kind of so weird. But it's things like that, just going through a mundane area, whether it's a restaurant or in this case, it was a place for appointments of sorts. So there were two individuals behind a desk or counter area, and they asked me to come here, and I went towards them, and they said, "Hey, come on, fill this out." And I was looking at them like, "Fill what out?" And so she just hands me this paper. I didn't touch the paper. I was like, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but no, I'm not filling anything out. You're gonna need to fill this out, sir. You're gonna go ahead and fill." I said, "I'm not dead, so I'm not filling anything out." And that's, I had to stand in the authority in this case. Now, what significance did that play? Well, it essentially breaks the loop in that particular area. Okay, so we have to keep a mindset and understand that in areas such as area that I'm calling it Focus 21, but it's the area where souls are coming to basically they're just dying or something to that effect. These people are half of them don't even realize that they're dead, but it has to come off real, like a more than just a dream, but more, like a life that they had just left. You feel me? As a matter of fact, a large part of that area, technically it was a resort, but really and truly it would look like apartment complex. And they had these souls that was somewhat had a soul that was washing clothes. And I'm like, "How you doing, sir?" I just went up to him. As a matter of fact, I introduced myself and I shook his hand. I say, when I shook his hand, I was like, "What's up, man?" And he said, "You know, that's the same thing my son would say." So I was like, and I shook his hand, and it was kind of like I broke him out of that loop, if you will. Um, Eventually, souls need to get broken out of the loop in order to move on to the next location. Okay. Now, whether that was my job to do or not, in the grand scheme of things, possibly, I don't know. but I was well aware of everything in this particular out of body experience, as with most of them. But in this case, I'm able to fly, and I'm able to move really, really, really fast and move really slowly. I was just trying out all kinds of stuff, and I was trying to do this, in fact, because it had been a while since I had an out of body experience. Relatively speaking, I usually have out of body experiences within, I mean, at least maybe once every 2 or 3 days. I'll have an experience, but in this case, it had been about a week, and I was just like, okay, well, I'm coming out of my body and experience what I can experience as long as I can experience it. Feel me? So, anywho, back in the appointment desk, I denied that, told them no, I wasn't filling nothing out, and I just ended up leaving. Someone else walked in and caught their attention, so they just went off and handled the other soul. So when I leave out of there, that's when I meet the guy. He was a black guy with the looked like he was washing clothes. So I flew over there next to him and I spoke to him, whatever, and shook his hand, and he told me what he said, about that's what my son does. So apparently he uh, was dead. After that point, everybody seemed to have left. Like it was just quiet. All I was just left with the view, the vista, and the view. Hell, it was very peaceful for the most part. The resort had, oh man, about a good 5, 6 layers of apartment slash condominium type complex that was almost like a stadium on the side. It had I remember seeing the washing mat. I remember seeing a pool. There was even a restaurant in that same area. It was a lot of things, that was there, but everybody was asleep, because, you know, it was dark at that point. I noticed that my light I couldn't, although I couldn't see the light, I knew that my power was still there. I was able to move really, really quickly. As a matter of fact, that's the opportunity I used to practice my movement, my flight. And as a matter of fact, I also tried to teleport. I was thinking of just somewhere else to get out of that particular construct, and I closed my eyes. I Everything turned black, and then I saw water. Like, even though it was black, I could still see the ripples of the water that was all black too. I don't know. It was interesting to me. I'd never seen that before, but it was like I touched the water or whatnot. It was in it There were ripples, and it was like a lake surrounded by darkness. But I didn't feel scared. I just was like, "Where the hell am I?" Like, I don't know where I'm going. So, but once my mind reverted back to that same place, I ended right back up in that resort area. Now, I ended up going into another apartment complex, another one of those apartment places, and I saw a computer. On this computer, it was like a bunch of mental illnesses: bipolar, schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, just all different types of mental illnesses that showed up there. But it was like, if you put on the visor, the spirit, the energy would heal you. It was like a healing mechanism for souls, like a with a VR set. You feel me? So it was like, oh, that's pretty cool, because I put the VR set on, and I was looking through, and I was scrolling up, and I saw dementia on one of them. I was like, wait a minute, dementia, because at the time my dog was acting kind of demented. Damn it, he was he was going through. Bless his heart, poor baby had vertigo, and I was like, damn it, is your son down? So, anyways, I found out he had a little vertigo. Took care of that, but I was thinking maybe I could heal my dog with this thing. So I'll put the I'll put the things on, and then I just scrolled up. But when dementia came and left, and I was like, damn it, how do I get back to it? So, anyways, I ended up pulling the I took it off, because there was another soul, a couple of souls that came into the room. They were two white ladies, and they apparently knew me. I didn't know them, but I spoke, and they were like, "Good morning, how you doing? Are you having a good time?" Just trying to make sure I was okay, even though it seemed as if that apartment resort place was theirs. And they asked me if I was going to have to participate in any of the, like, the parks and the things that they had in that area. Apparently, there were, like, not a roller coaster, but it was like a something like a theme park type thing in that area, but it was specifically for the resort. And then I also saw behind the scenes, so looking from that complex, that particular apartment, I could see a big machine that was taking all of it was like these plates and cups and knives and food that was essentially made, and it all looked the same. It was just, I don't know, like burgers and fries, but all of it was like the same. Like, I don't know how to describe that. It was weird, but all of the food that was made, it was almost like they were just recycling it and taking that energy to create more of the same food, if that makes any sense. It was kind of weird. I was able to see big ass machine just taking all this stuff, the trash, if you will, the food products, and then recycling them and making more of the same, rendering those energies, the food energies. It was like, it was interesting. So I ended up leaving that apartment complex, and I went and I flew towards the restaurant area. There was one particular soul that knew that I was different. I knew that he knew because it was through resonance. It was kind of like he started to talk to me about different things. What the hell was he saying? I don't even remember because my mind wasn't too much fixated on him as it was just the environment. But he kind of let me know that certain things were in a certain position for certain reasons. And I wasn't paying much attention to, so after he left, but he was working. He was a waiter at that whatever that restaurant was, and so he walked off. I flew, and the way and again I flew up, but it was like a kind of like that. Um, the core of myself, it it lights up, and then it allowed me to just kind of fly up and hover in the same position, like, and without moving, kind of like that. And that's what I ended up doing. And I noticed that there was like these spider webs. I'm like, what the hell, you have spider webs in the outer body state? I'm thinking, what the heck, this place needs to be cleaned. What? Now, spider webs, from my understanding, it has a lot to do with making sure that it was surveillance. Ultimately, it had a lot to do with surveillance of that area. I didn't really touch it or anything like that because I didn't know, what was what. I didn't see any spiders, but I did see the webbing, which again, and it also helps to keep the construct of it where it needs to be, from my understanding. Now, so anyway, so I fly down from that whole restaurant area because the restaurant itself, nice looking restaurant, it was kind of on a platform and kind of sitting up high off the ground, and you could see the other souls coming in to eat. Again, the food was yeah, the same type of food. So anyways, um I flew down and I see a young lady, a little, some people, they weren't speaking to me at all. And I just assumed that either they didn't see me or they just didn't care, which was fine by me. But there was one young lady that did, and I was trying to figure out what her name is. I asked her, "Hey, what's going on? How you doing? What's your name?" She just sat there. She was kind of quiet. She let me know that there was a reason why she wasn't like her name was the way that it was, and I can't remember what the name was. But the reason she was real quiet and whatnot, she was trying to explain to me. Just as we were talking, another guy, several other souls walked by, and then there was another soul that walked by with, looked like he had on like a string bikini kind of thing, so his ass was out, right? And I mean, overdone, just big ass. And he's walking along with an Asian male. Now immediately I'm looking at the young lady, like the girl that I was talking to, and she tells me, she kind of hints over, he's the reason why I'm saying, I'm kind of chilled. Like he did something to her. At least that's what it came off as. So I get up and I try to approach the man. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He runs away from me and into a building with glass doors. So I'm like, oh, okay then. So I go behind him. I walk through the door and he's on the other side, back outside. Now I'm thinking, okay, now he really is running away from me, him and the Asian guy. Now his features again were kind of off kilter. The ass was just too damn big, and just the features were just too. It was too extra. So anyway, so it lets me know that this particular individual, something wasn't quite right with him. He was quite possibly some sort of a parasitic entity. Sure enough, he turns into this monster looking thing with the teeth. Everybody runs away from him for the most part. except one other guy, and this other guy, I guess, was trying to fight him to some degree, but he made quick easy. That monster type guy just kind of pushed him off to the side. He bit somebody else, and then but the girl, now the young lady I was talking to, she was still just sitting there kind of like scared. So finally he sees me, and he walks up. I mean, his teeth were just like jagged teeth and whatnot. Now, I'm not a scary person, but that would have scared anybody typically. But in that state, I just kind of went with what my higher self says. Whatever it says, I mean, I just let it happen. And I just stuck my hands out kind of like this, nothing but death to keep me from it. That it was kind of like this, and my hands, my fingers went straight through his eyes, and his yellow stuff came out, and he just stopped. He was like, "Ah," and that was it. He falls, and he's gone. So the thing is, in these areas, sometimes there can be entities that, and then they're all electronic. It's like it. A lot of them are not organic. They're not real, but they can do some damage if you let it. You know what I'm saying? They can suck up your energy and things like that. A lot of these parasites, they may look a certain kind of way, but what it's intended to force you to feel some kind of way. Usually fear, because fear is a huge loosh type of way to get that energy. Is ooh, they love that type of loosh. So try your best to be even kill for the most part. Try not to exude too much in the way of fear. Don't running away and screaming and hollering and just all that stuff. Chill with that, because that's also, it's a way to, it's feeding the frenzy. It's feeding the mess. So yes, in even in the resort, they know that there are entities, there are souls that are there that are trying to recover, recoup, and they really and truly they try to keep those type of souls around to keep feeding the matrix, because a lot of their energy is being used as well. So now, of course, that doesn't mean that's what it's specifically for. Dare I say, it's for the healing of the soul, but then after a certain point it's time to don't stick around. They try to make it so nice and pleasant for you to just stay there, and indefinitely. You don't really want to do that, because there's nothing there really and truly for you. Not even the food is like, as bro, the food is recycled. It is. It might look, pretty and enticing, but it's the same meals like over and over, and it's like so. Ugh. But anyways, so because of course I was very lucid at the time. I knew what the hell was going on, but to everybody else, it's a nice, beautiful place. That's just, and it was nice looking. It was just not. I could see how it could get very boring, very, very fast. But with that being said, I was essentially attacked, yes, but I'm powerful. We are powerful. You don't, there's nothing to be afraid of in these cases at all. It's just knowing that you have the power, and knowing that you can do whatever you need to, whatever you want to do, essentially. Yes, if you want to call yourself a god, fine, it is what it is. Yes, you have the powers of a god and then some, because we are full of a source. We are we are the source in and of itself, if you think of it. So that was just one of my little radical little escapades that I had. It's been a while since I had a free trip to just kind of chill and just do whatever the hell I want to do, as opposed to being pulled somewhere and set somewhere to shine light and shit, that kind of stuff. So, but until next time, y'all. And y'all can hear some of my little crazy stories coming to a phone/television near you. Until next time, y'all. Take care.